That works. All right. All right. Well,
Please rise.
Flag. Public for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
let's pass that down. Short thing.
All trustees are present.
Then the folder, so I can put it on the screen.
Oh, okay. I'll hand them out. Oh,
It's
no,
not.
I think we're good with just this, George, because this is a working document right now for us. Okay. So let me just start by saying that this is, the budget I'm presenting to the board based on a series of meetings with each of the department heads, in which we examined every single line item with the intention of trying to provide the current level of services with the most effective and efficient way. I took on this year's budget with the goal to retain services. And that's what we have within this budget. So each of the departments first provided a budget that they felt they needed to operate the department, their own department. We then went through a series of, let's look exactly at each expense. We reduced a number of them. They presented to you based on some of the comments that folks made during that time. We cut back some additional areas. And so the budget you have in front of you is that budget post presentation to the Board of Trustees. What I would like to do is to go over certain parts of this budget, ask you for your comments, requests for additional data, recommendations of things that you think we could look at further. I also want to make a part of this a conversation of next steps beyond just this exact document tonight. And obviously other things that you guys may want to discuss as well. So I'm speaking to the choir here, but I do believe it's really critical to make a statement that we are a very unique village. I spent many hours this weekend and last week scanning through every other village in what they offer, and I could not find anybody that's at a village level that provides the same level of service we do. That's not an excuse for what we have here. It's just, I want to just make that pretty clear. We have 7,500 people, as you, in that range. We have police protection, we have fire protection, we have parks, we have roads, we have just many services that I have a document that each of the departments actually put together that I will share with you after it's all cleaned up. Of different things of everything they provide by department. And the different services that we offer. With that said, just a little bit about the drivers of this budget. Health insurance costs went up significantly above and beyond the normal rise in health insurance. Retirement did the same. We continue, as you know, to have a municipal bond payment. That we also have additional expenses operating this building. We are now in this building full-time. We had a better understanding now of the cost of operating a new building that was desperately needed, that we were unable to function in the previous building. So this is a building that was approved by the voters, and it does cost money to operate. There's been significant increases in National Grid rates. We've had a number of unfunded mandates such as MS4. We've had contractual obligations, and state aid hasn't grown. And that's an important factor for us, is that we don't see an increase in state aid, whereas other government entities have seen increases, school districts and other vendors. So if we look at the budget, which is on the first page of your piece, you'll see that we have an total appropriation of 13,776,000 with a general appropriation of 10,834,000. Estimate our revenues to be 3 million. We have identified potentially 200,000 or 200,000 of general fund balance to go towards this year's budget. So our balance that we need to raise is 707,431,000. The assessment, I won't go through all of the identified numbers, but there's some additions to that and there's some subtractions of what the assessed value is. So our assessed valuation comes out to 10,125,000. So our net assessed valuation net is 381,720,000.
So
Right.
381.
Yeah, 381 million. I'm sorry. Thank you. That provides a tax rate of $19,468 and change. Creates a tax rate of 19% for that, with a rate increase of 11.47.
It's $19.
$19, thank you, Justin, yeah. I had looking at the wrong symbol, I appreciate that. So before we get into more details with it, this is on assessed value. And one of the questions we always get is, my house is worth $240,000. And you're showing we always show, for example, people at $150,000. That's the assessed value that we're comparing to. That's not the house value. That's not the market appraised, right? That's the taxable number. So per $1,000 of your assessment, it's $2.02 of a cent. I know and I don't want to minimize this in any way, shape, or manner. For a house about 150,000, it's about a $5 a week increase And that's not trying to minimize the increase. I just wanted to make that clear. So the budget that you see is a budget that retains our level of service, and it is provided in what we've been able to work with very closely with department heads who have been very understanding of the fact that it's a strain, and if there's no question that this is a strain on village residents. But I grew up in the town, and I made the decision personally that I wanted career fire service. I wanted a local police department. I wanted the best cleaned roads possible. And unfortunately, because of the expenses and the providing that, this is our tax rate. I'm not saying that there's not things we can do, because I'm sure there are, and things that we have to look at. In addition to what you see here, I had some additional thoughts of areas that we could potentially look at, is cost savings. I know that in the past, one of the things that had always come up was garbage, for example. And unfortunately, garbage is, although that would like completely close the budget, it wouldn't from a resident's perspective, because we're just passing on a different expense to them. Right now, our garbage service is about $14 per month, per household in our budget. So why don't I go through some of mine, and then guys, we'll get into the lines as we want to. You know, one of the things that we have that we could take a look at would be the reduction of a summer part-time staff person. That would carry with it some things to do. Another one would be the possibility of limiting the days that the bathroom trailer would be open at the concerts. We started off with 38 nights when we started off with like 20 nights when the county originally supplied that, and we provided overtime service. We're up to 38. It's great. It's wonderful. We bring people into the village, but there is an expense associated with opening the trailer and having overtime for that. Maybe there's another way we can do something like that would reduce some cost. One of the other options that is a possibility in talking to some other municipalities on how they do code and inspection. People the size of us are surprised that we have a full-time building inspector and code enforcement officer. It's possible we could look at it that being a part-time position. The other option, and I know this is not the perfect time right now with the administration not being all that energetic around solar energy, but to look at some alternative energy sources for this building and the new building. I think if I recall correctly, what used to be about a 12-year buyback for solar is now like a 5-year payoff for solar because of the increased cost of electricity and the improvements to solar panels. And we do have roof ready. Our roofs have been built so that they can handle solar arrays. That's some of the ideas I had. There's some other ones that would dip into the services we provide. But I really did want to hear from you folks as well. So, one other thing before we jump directly into it. I would like, if people are able, to schedule a meeting for next Tuesday at 7. I don't know, to review what ideas folks here might have tonight, but also for during the week. And come back with some revisions to show you as to what those savings could result in. So that we can put a tentative budget that the public would be reviewing, for our public hearing,
31st, what time?
That's March
7.
31st.
7 o'clock.
Here, so,
That would be here.
and just to clarify, once a tentative budget is adopted, we can't change it until after the public
Right.
hearing. We can come up with ideas that are ready, but we can't
Right.
change the.
That's why I'd like to have one more meeting before we account this as a tentative.
Well, you would, at that
That
meeting,
meeting we would
hopefully
get-
you would make changes and then adopt that as the tentative.
Correct.
budget.
Well, that is, the public hearing is all open house, open,
Before we adopt.
not at the 31st. That's still our working session. Yeah, that's still our working, I don't have the schedule with me. The public hearing is on
Eighth.
the 8th, thank you. I'll start with the right. Justin, questions, comments, thoughts?
I think it's difficult, I'll be honest. You know, evaluating services that you rely on every day, is not easy. However, I will be honest and say will not support a near 12% increase in taxes on village residents. I've been on the board since 2019. And minus the restructuring we've done with our parks department, we've not done any other restructure or anything. And we've expected business as usual and expected revenues to magically increase somewhere that are not property taxes. And if my time on the board has taught me anything, is that our revenue is pretty consistent. As a result, our expenses should be just as consistent. I do want to point out, though, we have systems that are working against us that are way beyond our control. Since 2013, our retirement has increased 105%. Our healthcare since 2013 has increased 110%. The healthcare is market trend. Retirement is state trends and market trend. And if we think retirement is going to get any easier, we've not been following the news. If they fix the 6, as they're saying, do we honestly expect New York State to cover the cost of what it would take to fix the 6? It's going to be put right back onto the back of property tax folks. Because when you look back to 2003 and our retirement contribution as a village was 11,545, the state made changes to the retirement system, and all they did to balance their state budget was put it on the back of property tax. And I do not think they're going to do the same thing when Tier 6 gets replaced. So this is a existing expense that we should expect to continue to increase. Healthcare, due to policy set at the federal level, trickling down to local level, not going to get any better. In fact, it may actually get much worse in terms of costs. So this isn't a matter of going line by line and slashing budgets. This is a look at how are we operating? How do we operate differently, more efficiently, Unfortunately, I don't think that's something that can be solved this budget cycle. But we've been saying this for the last 3 years, 4 years. I'd say probably even 5 years. So we have how many weeks to do 5 years worth of work? As trustees, we have a fiduciary responsibility. As trustees, we are policymakers. We're not the budget managers. So in order for us to consider something a tentative budget, I think it's important for this to go through some additional rework. Not just to find savings, but to look at what we can do. My question is, how much of this 11.6% tax levy increase is related to the municipal facility?
To the bond, I believe it's 1.7.
I gave you this.
Yeah.
So 1 point something, I
I think it's 7.
1.7.
2.5,
So
wasn't it 2.5 yesterday?
That's the cap.
No, just the
The bond,
for this bond increase this time is 1.7.
So 1.7 out of a near 12%, we can't even say this is the municipal facilities project. This is a structural budget gap that we need to close. Because we're going to deal with this gap again next year, and the year after, and the year after, and the year after.
The municipal budget, the cost of the municipal building is about $1 million to the budget. The increase for the bond rate is 1.7. But there is also increases in the operational expenses of an additional building that need to be taken into account. And that's just adding to what you're saying, not replacing what you're saying.
But in previous budget cycles, the bond payment was much higher.
Much higher.
And the idea was, and what the voters approved in the referendum, was 3 years of bond payment with budget stabilization. This budget doesn't show budget stabilization. It shows perhaps the most significant increase in taxes that I've seen since joining this board. My first term, 3 out of the 4 years, we were at the tax cap for one. Municipal facilities project came, those were the 2 years we voted to exceed the tax cap on board those bond payments.
Mayor, you want me to have a moment?
Yes, I'll come back to you.
Discussion. No, you don't have to come back, I'm ready.
So go ahead.
All right, so I do agree with the introduction that the mayor laid out with a few things, the intermunicipal planning. I do think that that is an opportunity to work with our neighbors, town of Glenville, the city of Schenectady. I am a big proponent of the resident survey. This is the time, residents of the village of Scotia, we need to hear from you as to what services you want. When you come up to the table and you see almost a 12% tax rate increase, we need to hear from you. We need to hear from you at the public forum, not after the fact where the budget has been adopted and hear the complaints. The residents that I have heard from, The level of services are very important, as the mayor indicated. The police, the fire, the parks and the roads. We are a unique village in terms of we have all these services. I'm very concerned with the rising costs, as trustee Cook has mentioned, with regards to healthcare and retirement. And those are only increasing. The national grid increasing at this point, hopefully stabilization is on the rise if everybody in higher ups can do something about it. I do want to point out the garbage, as the mayor indicated, the $14 a month for garbage and trash collection, correct?
That's
For
trash.
trash,
That's-
for trash, and then we also have our pickup.
Yeah, our pickup is outside of that.
The $14, there's been previous talk of going elsewhere with private entities. And, I'm a strong proponent of the garbage. I do think, it's my understanding that that contract has to be negotiated on or about 6 or.
On 201 Fifth Street, number 516.
6 or months, 6 or more months out. I would recommend, a meeting with the city of Schenectady and further, contract negotiations. My understanding that it's a $12,000 increase yearly. And with the residents that I have spoken to, is I would say the trash is a great luxury for the village of Scotia. This board could simply take out the 600,000 approximately and say, okay, it's less of a tax increase, but we are clearly putting the burden on you as the resident to engage a private company, and it's gonna be more than $14. It might not be $14 initially to get you in business, but that is one valuable asset that you get in the village of Scotia, including large ticket items where you can go down to DPW and collect your little sticker for $5. Superintendent, $5, okay? But I can't justify a tax rate of 12% on our village resident. So we need to hear from you. And while I appreciate the budget, that you probably each department started with is different from what you ended with, we still gotta get it down. And you have to tell us what you want, what you're willing to pay, and what you don't want. I've been on the board for a long time now, and we had to make concessions. And I want to remind the people who voted for the municipal facilities project. It really, I think 800 people out of the 7,000 plus residents we have. You can't say you don't want that, because it's already been approved, so keep that in mind. The municipal facilities project is long overdue. Unfortunately, this board had to really say, it's time, we need to do this for our community. So, there's gotta be some modifications to this budget. And, I'm in favor of some of the items that the mayor has indicated, and hopefully this executive budget will be reduced by the time it gets adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
Adjustments aren't gonna get us to where we need to be on this. So while the different things that the mayor outlined certainly could help, we have these costs that are skyrocketing that are out of our control, but that doesn't mean that we throw up our hands and say, there's nothing we can do about this in order to maintain services. We just have to ask people to bear this. An almost 12% increase for residents of a village where the median income is where it's at for us right now is completely unsustainable. And so while I understand it's helpful to illustrate that it's $5 a week, over the course of a month, that's the difference between somebody being able to buy pet food or put food on their table, or frankly, to go out and eat or go to a movie at Scotia Cinema or do all the other things that our residents do on a regular basis. So while we can make adjustments, I would really like to express that our department heads are incredibly skilled, knowledgeable people. And I can't sit here and say, I suggest this, I suggest that, I have this fine tuning that you could possibly do with this. I'll just say anything close to this increase is going to be a no from me from a voting perspective, period. This is unsustainable for the people who live here. And so I don't feel comfortable, nor I think would you want me to start looking at your line items in each of your budgets and start making suggestions or cuts. What I would ask you to do is get back to the mayor, and this is what I think we're looking for is a radical reimagining of this budget, not a fine tuning. At least that's what I'm looking for. And so I have all the faith in the world that you all can do that. As somebody who manages budgets in my own life, I would not want somebody saying to me, you should cut this, you should cut that. But I'll just share that I echo all of the sentiments about the services we provide and why people live here, and all that is of course true. But when you look at the fact that, again, out of our control, our healthcare and retirement costs have literally doubled in 10 years, if you look at these charts. But we have a reality that we can't just take the things that are out of our control and put them onto our residents in the way that this does. So I am sorry that this is going to require some really tough work on your part. I understand that. Trust me, I get it. But this is not about getting this down from almost 12% to 10%. This is something much more significant than that we'll be looking for. I'll be looking for. I don't want to speak for everybody else. I'll be looking for.
I was crunching some numbers with the rates, and I always try and relate these discussions to me and my family. I work 3 jobs. This is one of my 3 jobs. $500 a month to do what we do. We haven't taken an increase in that at all. Since I've been here, I think there was one that got by me, by us, that was probably $10 or something like that in the past, since 2018. And so my wife is a full-time employee as well. Our kids go to school. We moved here for the services to the village, for the career fire, for the co-teaching classrooms at Lincoln School for my special needs children, for that kind of walk to school scenario. And it was perfect for me. And people have heard us before where I was in need of those services, to have them be at my doorstep in 3 minutes. They were there, and I would replace that for without a fight. This increase is to the mayor's point, in my instance, my house is assessed at 180,500. It's $7.13 a week. Is the level of service I get for that increase worth it? Yes. Is it manageable for the time being? Yes. But to Trustee Cook's point, it's going up every year at consistent rates. Everything's going up every year. So when you start looking at, our increases to contractual items, retirement, healthcare, it'd be really great to find a way to mitigate that somehow. I know that there's a temporary increase in AIM this year, which is whatever it is. Temporary is not kind of the word we need to use for that. We need to have some substantial, reconciliation for the past 10 years of increases that we've been, enduring. I went through the three funds, the summary pages for the three funds. It looks like the requested and tentative is $100,000 less. Am I correct in that statement? The requested lines for each of the three funds, plus including the tentative three funds, is $100,000 reduction. Kind of in line with what everybody else said. You mentioned a few things that, just quick math is less than $25,000 or something like that. I think we need to have, how much is a percentage point? $100,000? About $100,000 per percentage point. So you reduce the budget in those discussions by 1%. Just kind of to reiterate about the garbage scenario, that's a cost control. It does increase every year. It's cost control, but we are below the rate what a resident would pay for a similar service, which you're not going to get. You're not going to get put out 2 cans of garbage, 2 cans of recycling every week and have it go away. Or you're not going to put a mattress out every week and have it go away for $14 I know we talked about looking at, getting together a, scope of work or a proposal to get bids. Let's go out to bid for a new contract. Let's try and look at 5 years from now with our contractual increase and say, hey, if you can do better than this, or can you do this for that? It's worth it to have the discussion. It's also worth it to start, looking at those kind of cost sharing measures for assets we have and the assets our neighbor has. Trustee Brown brought up a shared services discussion where we would have real input from a committee of residents in town and village and city and other towns, members to try and have those discussions, to start those discussions, looking at all of the options for trying to reduce the burden to the taxpayer. It's really easy for a lot of people to say, just go away or do something else with your neighbor. And you're still not going to get the reason why I moved here, the reason why our houses don't stay on the market for a very long time. They just kind of, people want to have what we have, and it is expensive. It is, it is a premium above pretty much all of our direct neighbors. When you start saying you have the lowest tax rate in the area or the lowest tax rate in the county, let's look at the services you provide for that lowest tax rate. Of course, we don't provide the services. If we don't provide advanced life support to ourselves and our neighbors, we could have the lowest tax rate in the county too. If we don't have a career 3-minute response to the majority of our public safety and health and safety instances, sure, we could have the lowest tax rate in the county too. So I think it's this time of year is stressful for all of us, especially our clerk, our mayor, our department heads, because it's tough to try and keep the things that you have at the rates that you have them and continue to find ways to do it. But I think this is the instance where, like you said, the across the three funds, $1,000. Now, you brought up some points to look at those. It would have been interesting to have that number tonight, Mayor, rather than talk about it and say, hey, I think there we can do it too. I mean, it would have been good to have those tonight so that we could kind of have that further discussion about that. And, you know, just to Trustee Brown's point as well, it's I don't think we can accurately say, cut it here, cut it there, and everything's gonna be fine. Not being intimately involved in the day-to-day operations. So, while I personally am able to justify the cost increase year after year, it's tough for me. It's the reason why I work 3 jobs. It's the reason why my wife works a full-time job. It's the reason why I pretty much clock 60, 70 hours a week so that I can maintain my existence and give that, you know, my kids the village experience inside the village. I look forward to seeing what further can be done to reduce this number. And again, I like your idea about the village survey. Let's get that out there. Let's, you know,
Has everybody been able to see it online that I sent?
In the one, right?
It should be in the OneDrive.
Yeah.
If you can get comments to me by tomorrow, we can get it out. Or say, close the business tomorrow. Thanks for reminding me of that, Jim.
Yeah, and again, it's just, this is a tough time every year. We don't look forward to it. It is kind of that thing that you just kind of keep your head up and try and go through it the best that you can, which is why we're here to do it, is to kind of uphold the public sentiment or the public need and live within their means.
Making a few notes.
The one thing I think we need to do, is we do need to send a letter to our state delegation about the retirement, letting them know of our situation here in the village with the retirement costs increasing, because they need to hear from local government and even our school district governments on whatever changes they are planning to retirement. They need to understand, property taxpayers can't necessarily shoulder that burden alone.
I did have one question.
Yeah.
Does this tentative budget include increases to revenues from the F&G fund?
So the F&G funds are separate.
No, I know, but like any increasing rates, so the revenues can increase.
The F fund includes an 8% increase to water rates, no change in sewer.
Okay. Okay.
Healthcare, we just to go to your point about the growing costs. We clearly are going to have to look at our contractual arrangements with healthcare, the plans we propose, what we're offering. That's because I fully agree with you. I don't think we're going to be seeing any kind of miraculous, all of a sudden, healthcare is going to be provided cheaper in this country. So,
I think being in the wealthiest country in the world, we would have a solution for affordable healthcare, but unfortunately, that rests far above the head of village trustees and the village.
yeah, I would say probably even the same thing for
The state, I
low
mean,
cost housing.
the state, is dealing with cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, and,
Yeah.
it's.
additional comments, Heather? George?
No, just, nice to have a magic wand, you know.
I will be reaching out,
Take a mind rich uncle.
I will be reaching out because some of these, frankly, I'm gonna need some help. Questions around these services and how we can look at restructuring certain things. Not taking away the work that people are gonna be doing, but we may have to take a hard look at some things we provide and we either can't provide them exactly the same way. I do want to possibly bring forward the potential for some additional revenue sources that we could look into. We've talked about a couple, ourselves. So I guess my next charge is to bring you a new budget. But I am asking you, and I'm sure the department heads are asking you that they're gonna help ask for a little guidance as well to make sure that what we bring forward to you is something at a level of acceptance. There's some, go ahead.
I can only speak for me, but, I think at this point, to trustee Brown's point, we have very skilled department heads. We have department heads that are very much focused on serving the community that they work for. And if there's a suggestion that they bring forward, I think all of us are in this position where we have to accept their professional expertise. The only thing that is gonna be difficult is, we also have to respect what the bill of rights can afford. And I think that's gonna be the tough thing to.
There's a balance between what they want and what we can afford.
Correct.
And to trustee Gray's point, we need to hear from people. So I think it's very important that we make sure people are aware of when the hearing is. And so people, wherever they land on what they want to see and what they're willing to pay, that they show up and we hear from them.
And their email addresses are on the website. Feel free to send them down to all 5 of us. It's the couple we've gotten so far have been, great to see some of the insight that some of the people that have, a couple of people that have sent comments up till now. So
If there's nothing else, I want to call an exec session to discuss contracts. Can you access chief's office with your key?